One more time, will you just help me thank God for Dr. Jill?
Thank you for having me.
Listen, I've seen clips, I've seen snippets, I've seen a lot, and I've seen enough to be probably traumatized by it. So, what's happening? Where are we at right now in this pandemic? And just help us today.
Well, I think what she articulated so well was that people in healthcare are exhausted. We are tired, we are weary, and I'm not on the front lines. You know, I've been working for 30 years, so praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
I don't have to be on the front lines. But those of us who are not on the front lines, we are in the community trying to keep people out of the hospital because the hospitals are overrun. Doctors are retiring, healthcare workers are retiring or leaving and dying from treating people who do exactly what they want to do, whenever they want to do it. Say that we are cheating the system and calling everything COVID,
Jesus.
Yet they present themselves on our doorstep when it's time to save their lives.
Wow.
Just a few months ago, you know, we were all heroes. Folk were lined up and when I would be leaving my job, leaving my office, you know, there would be folk out there clapping, just, oh, y'all are so wonderful. And now we are all on the take.
Wow.
It is the most interesting thing I have ever witnessed in my life. It's as though there is an attack on science and scientists and healthcare workers because we're lying.
Wow.
So it really is, we don't even know what to say to each other. You know, when we meet and have conversations with each other, is girl, man, what in the world? We've gone from being angry and not understanding to being sad, to being weary, to just being baffled. So it's an interesting situation. And now that our babies are back in schools, and we are watching people scream at each other about their opinions, and the children, sometimes you'll see the babies in the background, and their parents are stomping and burning and have signs, and the children are just looking like, what on earth?
Yeah.
Because they don't even understand what is this about. Because the one thing they do know is it's not about them.
Wow. So I felt like, we went through a moment where I felt like we're good.
I know.
I mean, I really felt that way, but it didn't last long.
Well, so this is what happened. The numbers were going down, and it was anticipated that the numbers were going down. And then we were given the instructions we didn't have to wear a mask anymore. I saw a thing online, because I like to watch things online as well, so that I can understand what people are thinking, because, you know, there's a mask online. And I saw this thing online that said, those of us who are masking and social distancing and getting vaccinated and whatever else are the same people who did the group project, you know, when you were in college and you had the group project and the other folk wouldn't do their part. You just did the whole group project and said, here's your card. This is what you're supposed to say. And so y'all know, some of y'all are the group project folk. So what happened were the group project leaders who had been wearing their mask and doing all of that, you know, they came out of their mask. But the folk who had done none of that came out of theirs also. And so it was like fire. It was like a match. And then we got this new variant that is more contagious, and all kinds of things started to happen. People started to gather, and it just caught on fire.
So, like, did they not see the new variant coming?
We know that new variants are going to come. So let me just kind of tell you why new variants come. A virus does not have the ability to replicate on its own. So if you put a virus and lay it out here, it may infect somebody, which means it gets in their body, but it cannot make copies of itself.
Okay.
It can only make copies of itself when it is in someone replicating,
Okay.
or something replicated. Do y'all follow me so far? So when a virus is replicating is when variants can occur.
Okay.
So a variant is simply you're going down the road and you're going down the list making a copy of yourself, and bloop, something happens. You make a little mistake. Now it becomes something different.
Oh, okay.
But that only happens when replication is occurring. So when a lot of people get infected, more variants occur. So we know they are going to happen. It is a natural course of nature. We just don't know what they're going to look like.
Okay. Okay. So that's really what happened. And
Right.
that's why we thought we were good.
Yes.
We thought we were okay. But the
Right.
truth of the matter is, bang.
Bang.
Now we're dealing with that. And, you know, and we're scrambling, trying to figure out, wait a minute, I thought I was okay, now I'm not. So,
Now, yes.
And it's caused us to, actually, I think, from what I'm hearing, is it's caused us, it become a bigger enemy even than the COVID-19,
Right.
the first virus that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And now everybody's fighting the Delta. So my question, you brought up kids a few moments ago.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning stages, they were telling us things like, it won't affect your children. If your children are young, don't worry about that. So we weren't really worried so much about the children. And now, all of a sudden, everybody's panicked because our children's hospitals are full of kids and
Right.
all of those things. So is it just because the Delta affects children like the original virus didn't?
It wasn't that it didn't affect children. That is what was communicated and received. It just wasn't, it didn't make them very ill.
Okay.
So they could catch it, but they didn't get very ill. That was one thing. The second thing was our children, because we were all on lockdown, our children were not in circumstances where they were communicating with each other.
Right.
And so they were protected just by way of being children, because
Yeah.
they don't go anywhere by themselves. We have to take them there.
Yeah.
When a virus replicates most of the time, the first thing you know and you learn in medicine and science is there are no absolutes. So anything that I say is not an absolute. But most of the time, when a virus replicates, those variants that survive have replicated to their advantage. Let me tell you what that means. That means they can spread easier. They can replicate quicker once they get into your body. So there's still a very small number of children that are getting ill, but because this variant is so contagious,
Okay.
so lots of children can get it. So if only, say, 4 out of 1,000 get critically ill, if it's 1,000, it's 4, but it's 100,000, you see.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at, is because the numbers are growing so rapidly. The percentage, while it has not increased, the numbers are increased just by virtue of the number of children that are being affected.
Yeah, and now they're all back in school.
Right.
So they're congregating again, and which
Right.
only can make that
And we are
worse.
fighting about not whether or not they are safe, but whether or not our opinions of what freedom means
God.
is being, I mean, that's what the fight is about. It is not about whether children are safe. It isn't. And I don't care where you stand. I have your politics where you want to have them. You don't want me to keep your baby safe?
Come on. Yeah, and okay, let me not even try that.
Yeah, we're not.
Keep it moving.
Yeah, here we go.
So.
Do we need some blessed oil so
yes,
we'll be
something.
nice?
We sure do.
I wore my pointed toe shoes because that makes me
too.
act nice. I
But that is so true. It's not even about what we see on TV anyway,
No.
you know, or the news or whatever. It's like, it's not even about our children anymore.
No,
it's
not.
back to, it's about me and you.
It's about me and you. It's about
And they're
what?
gangster about it, too.
And gangster, yeah. And it is, I think one of the things that I have had to learn to do, because I have to take care of my patients who made decisions that I disagree with, and patients who make decisions that I agree with. What I've had to do is try to understand where their anger comes from. Mm-hmm. Try to hear them. Mm-hmm. Try to understand what it is they have heard that has them so frightened, so that I can go there and address that, as opposed to just talking to them. Yes. That I can listen to them and address those things, and have been successful in my little corner of the world.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you don't get to the root of that,
no,
then you know we're not gonna get very far.
No.
Now, say that there's people that have said, okay, we've been in this pandemic since really beginning of 2020. Mm-hmm. If people are saying, I've been in it this long, I have not contacted this virus, so I'm not interested in hearing about, you know, the antibodies. I don't want to hear about the vaccines. I don't want to hear about anything. What do we say to them?
Sometimes you can't say anything to them. There are some people who have their heels just dug in, so you got to let them be. So you got to recognize what people are at least listening to you. I have found, though, that most people are reasonable. It's just they have the wrong information. Mm-hmm. But I have found that most people, if they have a close-up look at COVID,
yeah,
at its worst, now they are listening. Mm-hmm. One of the things that has driven this pandemic, I think, is because people are dying in isolation. So you have not heard somebody trying to breathe. Mm. And I will tell you, a young man who went to school with my daughter, I can't hardly talk about it. He was 21. He should be graduating. Mm. And he died last December from COVID. Jesus. And the family had some issues with insurance and that kind of stuff, and he was released from the hospital, and he didn't have a doctor, so the medications he was on, he didn't have anybody to write the prescription. But because I've known the family so long, I told his mom, bring him in, I'll write the prescriptions until they can get you set up with the assistants. That baby was in my office. My office is small, I'm concierge, we have a little small office. And I was back in my office, he was in the front, and I heard this sound. Jesus. And so I tipped out to the side and looked at my office manager, and I said, what is that sound? She said, that's the patient. I said, doing what? She said, breathing. So that baby struggled with COVID for months. And they celebrated when he got released from the hospital, but the people who took care of them, many of them don't even know he's dead. But I heard him just trying to breathe. And I think if we really saw that,
Yeah.
we would understand
Yeah.
that. So the COVID that we see is the COVID where somebody has a headache and they do all right and they go on back to work. We don't see the people who really, really struggle. One of my friends told me a few years ago, I was saying, why are we getting people that are infected with HIV again? She said, because they don't know the HIV that we know. We know the HIV that people lost 100 pounds and had, purple splotches all over their skin. She said, they know the HIV that you get some medicine for.
Think about that.
So that's different. She said, so when you are talking to them about HIV, that's what they know. She said, they don't even know AIDS.
My Lord. Wow.
So that's the same thing that we're dealing with COVID. People know the COVID where you're off work a couple of weeks and you're a little tired.
Yeah.
And you can't go to the gym. They don't know the COVID where you are saying, God, if I can get just one more breath.
One more breath.
Yeah.
Jesus. I was talking with, I believe it was Pastor Travis last night on the phone, and I was saying, I said, fortunately, none of our circle of family have had to experience that, COVID to that degree. I said, but it's just a matter of if we saw it like that.
Right.
And here you are talking about that today.
Right.
Because it's people, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind.
Out of mind.
And they don't think, they think, oh, y'all got a sinus infection.
Yeah, now, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. So with this Delta variant, one of the reasons, so what we're seeing with Delta variant is people die quicker.
Okay.
So they're not in the hospital on the ventilator for a month. They are gone in 2 weeks. Anybody know anybody who's passed away from that? They are literally gone in 2 weeks.
Wow.
They are diagnosed on Monday, and next Thursday, they are telling you, so-and-so died. It's like, oh, my Lord. So one of the symptoms, though, is nasal congestion. Not losing your smell, which is anosmia, but just nasal congestion. So many people have COVID and spread it all through their houses because it's like, oh, it's just a sinus infection. Yeah. Oh, no, this is a sinus infection. Oh, but my head is hurt. Oh, but it's a sinus infection. So I'm saying to everybody, when you get that nasal congestion, and it's get checked.
Yes, and if you can't get an appointment, can you tell us about like these home tests? Can we trust these home tests?
Yes, you can trust the home test.
Okay.
30 years ago, nobody had heard of testing for pregnancy at home.
Yes.
You had to make an appointment, go to the doctor, and y'all don't know because some of y'all, bless your hearts. Okay. But you had to miss your cycle, go to the doctor, wait that 3 or 4 days and hope somebody called you back. All of that. You did. And today it is common practice. You go to the drugstore and get you something and check yourself, and 30 minutes after you conceive. So it's the same technology. That's the truth. And now we have an agenda reveal party, and it's like, how pregnant are you? 45 minutes. It's like, girl, could you wait a minute? Are we revealing already? Anyway, but I digress. I'm sorry, Pastor Murray. But it's the same technology, and yes, you can do it at home.
Yeah, so we can trust that.
Yes.
So that's good. That's good to know, because sometimes right now it's hard to get an appointment to get checked.
Yes.
But it is so important because we're spreading it so fast.
And it goes through households.
Yeah.
I recently had a family that I take care of, and so some transitions have occurred. So the grandchildren are now in the home with the grandparents. And one of the grandbabies was coughing. And so they were concerned about that. I said, test him. And you all have the resources, just test them every week. They're in school. One of the babies tested positive, and the grandparents are in their 60s, and nobody else got COVID. The reason nobody else got COVID, because they were testing so frequently that they caught it before it spread through the household.
Yeah, wow, that's good.
And so that's what you want to do. So I find, though, that I will suggest to people test, and they'll say, well, I don't have any symptoms.
Yeah.
Okay. Asymptomatic means you don't have any symptoms.
Right.
Does not mean you're not infected. It means you don't have any symptoms.
Yeah.
So if we take the fear away from testing and see it as a tool to empower us, then we will know how to use it appropriately.
Yeah, and that's good too. Because the minute people find out that somebody in their house is infected, no matter how many times people have talked about it, all of a sudden you don't know what to do.
Don't know what to do.
Because it's your house.
Right.
And it's your people. It's your tribe.
Right. And I do these Facebook Lives and Instagram
and they're
lives.
awesome, by the way.
And the reason I do those, I don't just go on there because I don't have anything to do. Or I want to be famous. No. But I go on there when I think there's information that's important for people to know.
Yeah.
And in one weekend, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, when school first started, I had 4 families to call me and say, what do we do? We have received this letter, and what do we do? There is a child what do we do? Do we test? Do we not test? Are we all supposed to isolate? Well, I can't isolate. I got to go to work. Well, because nobody has given us a plan. Yeah. And so I put together a plan for parents saying the first thing you need to do is have some home tests. Mm-hmm. The second thing, if you don't have a thermometer at your house, go buy a thermometer. You don't want to have to pick your child up from school. Now you don't have a thermometer, you don't have wipes, you don't have any vitamin C, vitamin D, you don't have any Pepsid, you need Pepsid. Oh, let me say this. Yeah. None of this is medical advice. This is This is information that you can do with as you please. Great information. Uh-huh. You need Pepsid because some people get the diarrhea. Mm-hmm. That is because of the inflammation that the virus causes in some people's gut. So taking Imodium is not what you need to do. So you need to have some Pepsid, just those kinds of things. Yeah. So you need to know. You need to have a plan for what are you going to do with your child if they can't go to school and you got to go to work. I say test. If you're negative the first time, test again in 3 days. Mm-hmm. If they are not going to go to school, who are they going to go stay with? Probably not the grandparents because they're at increased risk. Do you have a friend or family member who can let them stay at their home and they are fully vaccinated? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that you don't increase the risk in their home. Right. Just those kinds of things. Talk through them. Think about it so you are not in the middle of the crisis trying to decide what to do. That's great information right there. So let me ask you this. I believe it was December, they came out with the first people began to receive this vaccination. Uh-huh. First of all, can you tell us what a vaccination is? I don't want to assume that everybody knows everything. What a vaccination is? Yeah. Very good. Thank you for asking that question. A vaccination is a way to expose your immune system to a potential pathogen so that it can prepare to fight it in the event that it sees it. So there's two parts of your immune system. One is your innate, INNATE, immune system. The innate immune system is the one that everybody talks about. Oh, my immune system has it. I'm going to wait on my immune. Okay, that's nice. It is, unless you run up on a monster. So your innate immune system is your general immune system that helps you fight everything. It's non-specific. It just helps you fight everything. Very important for us. That's what vitamin C, vitamin D, those are parts, are things that you need so that that innate immune system works well. Then the other part of your immune system, it's what's called an adaptive immune system. So your adaptive immune system sees a specific organism and starts to fight it specifically. It takes it some days to rev up. When you have vaccines give your body the memory of that organism so it doesn't take you a week to fight it. The minute you see it, you're ready to fight it.
Wow, that's good to know.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
And they're different, and you need both.
Yeah. We are so fearfully and wonderfully made.
We are.
If you stop and think about that, God, we are so fearfully and wonderfully made.
One of the reasons, Pastor Brady, I don't understand how any doctor does not believe in God is because when you are in training and you look inside the human body and you look at how all of these little nerves, and you understand that you started as 2 cells and then you elongated and rotated and stuff went over here and over there. And that's why when you get gallbladder, you'll have pain under your shoulder blade, is because those cells migrated from the... God is awesome.
He's awesome.
Woo! God is awesome. God is awesome and gives us everything we need, including the knowledge that we need.
Absolutely. Yes. Every
to
good.
face the obstacles that we don't even know are on the way.
We don't even know.
Don't even know. 10 years ago, they were working on a platform for a vaccine in the event we would hit a pandemic.
Okay, so that was 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
So when people say, I'm concerned because this vaccine...
happened too fast.
Come on.
Couple of things happen. First of all, when you tell people something's going to happen with warp speed...
Yes, that's a problem.
We go, ooh, warp speed. That, you know what? That's too fast for me.
Yeah.
I'm not liking the warp speed thing. I want to back this up. So that was our first impression.
Yes, okay.
Warp speed, okay, that's too fast. I'm not getting this. As a matter of fact, I was one of those people. I said, this is happening too fast. I am concerned about the speed with which this is going to happen. Are they skipping some steps?
Yeah. You think you're going to get a warped product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so even those of us in medicine were saying, I don't know, y'all can warp speed, but I'm take my time. So, but when you realize and you started to look at, okay, what is this that we are doing? And you realized, oh, this technology they have been working on for decades. Why were they working on that already? So, you know, the noise is because they knew they were going to create it. Y'all, sit down, take a whole seat. Anyway.
Take a seat and a half if you have to.
A whole seat. No, we had seen coronaviruses before.
Yeah.
SARS and MERS were coronaviruses.
Yeah.
The reason they did not sweep like this coronavirus has is because they made people so sick so quickly that they didn't spread it. The unique thing about COVID-19 is that asymptomatic period. So people didn't know they were ill, and they were spreading it before they knew.
Yeah.
So they knew that it would probably be a coronavirus, and they thought if a coronavirus starts to attack us, if we get a novo coronavirus, novo means one that we haven't seen before in our population. That's a problem because if you've never seen it before, your body has no memory of it. No human body does. And so it just takes us a long time to start getting those antibodies going. So they thought we've got to be able, because of how the world is, and people travel all about, in 24 hours, you can be to the other side of, well, now you can be in space.
Right.
You don't even need 24. That we've got to rev this up quickly. If not, billions of people could die. So that was the thought process, and that's why they were getting it ready. So they had the platform already that they could put a vaccine together quickly so that we could have it available. So that's why they were working on it.
So it's not something that just came up
No.
over the last
No.
2 years.
The virus just came up.
Yeah.
But the technology already existed. So this is the other thing. When I say to people, when they say to me, well, it usually takes 10 years for them to develop a vaccine, it's like, do you know what they were doing in that 10 years? What were they doing? You don't know. You know why? Because we don't discuss that in the public.
Right.
That's not a conversation that we have. So things like getting the genetic code for a virus, well, we only mapped the whole genetic code for humans just a few years ago, within the last 10 years. So our technology has changed rapidly. When I was driving here from, I live in South Jerusalem. So I had to get up real early, y'all, because I had to put on lipstick. So when I was driving from South Jerusalem, I told my daughter, I said, you used to have quarters.
Yes. To pay the toll.
Do y'all not find it strange that you don't have to have nary a quarter?
Nary.
And if you go through there too many times, not only do they know you didn't have a quarter, but they are at your house. Saying, you haven't paid our quarters. Technology.
Advances.
Technology. The same technology that gave us cars that drive themselves.
Wow.
Do you not find that strange?
Wow.
You know why you don't find that strange? Because we were talking about that. They were saying there are going to be cars that drive themselves. Oh, are they? How are they going? So we've had that come. Nobody was talking about, they are making messenger RNA technology for the next COVID. Are they? Hush, girl. So you didn't know.
Right.
And so when it came to pass, you thought it was something strange and different, and it was going to change us into zombies. I don't know why zombies. Why couldn't we be Cinderellas? Okay, anyway.
Right.
But it's going to change us into, just because we don't understand the technology. So we were not discussing it in a way that people knew. So first of all, we have the technology. In 48 hours, once they knew what the virus was, in 48 hours, they could tell you the genetic code of the virus.
Wow.
That took months before. So in 48 hours, they had that information. They already had the platform to put it together. And the government said, we are going to put money in this because it has to go. And so so money was not an issue. They didn't have to get financing for it. You had scientists all over the world working on it. And that's what happened.
Wow.
It used to take years for you to get enough people in a study to start giving them. Now you put that on the internet, you got 1,000 people. You know, when you put something out there, you can get 1 million views in a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the technology came together with the science and put it all together, and it could happen quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, and it was tested by, I think they said the Moderna was tested by somewhat like 40,000 people.
Yes.
I wanted, like I told Pastor Joseph, I said, can you get me a graphic of what it looks like for 40,000 people to be standing in a spot?
Yeah.
So that just the visual of
Right.
that. 40,000
Right.
people, and the Pfizer
Right.
was 30-some thousand.
Right.
That went into all of their arms before
Right.
it ever came into any of us today.
To any arms.
It went in.
And they were doing several things at once. I mean, our technology is just quick. Right now, they are testing, because one of the things that people said, well, why can't they do an HIV vaccine?
Yeah.
If they've been doing, they are actually testing an mRNA HIV vaccine right now.
Wow.
And then my question was, well, y'all won't even take this, so
Right.
are you gonna take it?
Right.
Anyway, there you go.
Anyway. Yeah, that's good. That's all good to know. That's funny too, because you're right. We didn't talk about what was going on during that time period because we're talking about other things.
Right.
But now it's personal, and now people want to get on there with their disinformation,
Right.
and ruin something possibly that
Right.
God Himself, every good and perfect gift.
Yes.
Do y'all know your Bible? Every good and perfect gift
Right.
comes from the Father above.
Yes.
And
The misinformation is madness.
that is what's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane. And Pastor Joseph, are you anywhere in this room? Are you around, or where are you? Okay, tell him come in here for a second. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do it because we were having a conversation this week.
Can I'm gonna have to take a break.
Yes.
Can you get Pastor Joseph?
Yes.
And I'll come back. Pastor
Come on,
Joseph.
she's going to come right back. Can you
I'll
help
come
me
right
thank God for Dr. Jill? Somebody meet her. Show her how to get around back there. So we were in are y'all enjoying this today? Okay, that's great. We were in a conversation this week, the staff and I, and Pastor Joseph. Said we were talking about the misinformation, and I said, you know, people are saying that if you take this, it's the mark of the beast. And everybody heard that? Lord have mercy. And Pastor Joseph said, well, you know, I'm going to give you some information right here. Because even that is not a new conversation. Do you have any of that stuff with you?
I got it up here.
Praise God. Y'all welcome, Pastor Joseph.
First of all, again, Pastor, thank you for having this meaningful conversation. People perish for a lack of knowledge.
That's right.
And every generation has its own definition of the mark of the beast, because everything new is the devil. You're flying on planes. If God wanted you to fly on planes, you would have had wings. God wanted you in the air, He would have made you a bird. And so in the 30s, the mark of the beast, I gotta remember it now. It was in my head.
Okay, come on. Lord, bring it back to Him. I just remember a couple of them.
A couple of them. Well, the Social Security number at one point was the mark of the beast, because they were going to put a number on you, and that number was the mark of the beast. And so there were literally religious people who said, I will not be identified by a number, because you're not going to identify me as the mark of the beast. And so in the 50s and 60s, when the telephone company started giving everybody phone numbers, your little area code, that 3 digits, 666. And watch, they knew not to make anybody's area code 666, because like, okay, I can't call you now, right? I mean, literally, if you go to the store and your total comes up to $6.66, I got to put something else on there. I got to put something else. Give me a pack of gum or something.
Yes.
Make it $6.75, $6.82, but no. And so this is really happening in our community. When we got to the age of the credit card numbers, that 3-digit code on the back of your card, mark of the beast. And then we got to the age where they start putting barcodes on the back of boxes. You can't buy or sell without the mark of the beast.
That hurts.
Yes, come on, Dr. Jill. Sorry, I'm unmasked, but I am fully vaccinated. Okay. Let me let you back in the first position. Go ahead. And so then we got to the age of the internet, and we started having IP addresses. Because you don't know this, some of you are not technologically savvy, but every device you use has an IP address. It's tracked by the government. They know where you are unless you have a proxy server or some sort of firewall. We know where you are. We know what you're doing. We know what websites you're looking at. We know what you're browsing. We know what conspiracy theories you believe in. And in
They
fact,
know what websites we look. Oh, Lord.
every last one of them. And there were people who resisted the internet because at that point, the internet was the mark of the beast. And everybody was, you're trying to get on Facebook, but you need to have your face in the book.
Yeah, that's right.
Until we all got shut down, and then everybody wanted to be live on Facebook.
Amen.
3 a.m. with your phone in your face. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Come on in, I'm gonna prophesy to you. Come on in, come on in, come on in. I'm waiting on you, I'm waiting on you. Well, I thought Facebook was demonic.
Right.
So the theory, and I'm not trying to be little, because some people are legitimately scared.
Yes,
I won't say
absolutely.
legitimately scared, but they're seriously scared.
Yes.
But they're misinformed. If the government wanted to track your activity, they did not need a microchip in a vaccine to track your activity.
That's right. Absolutely.
All they had to do is ping your phone. Your Apple Watch is keeping biometric data on you every single day. It knows what your heart rate is, what your resting heart rate is. Your phone has your fingerprint or a retina scan in it right now. And so when we were talking about the opportunity to discuss the vaccine, I am, some of you know this, an epidemiologist by training. I mean, I work for the Lord now. Don't ask me to run a regression model. I can't interpret any data. If you're taking biostats right now, don't ask me anything. But my training in public health and my training as a spiritual person made me, because at this point, our community isn't resisting the vaccine as much because of lack of knowledge. It's because we've dug our heels into some bad knowledge.
Wow.
And we've said, I will not take the mark of the beast. And I want you to know that the carnal mind, the corruption of man, the inability to think clearly, being beholden to bad religion and bad ideology is more of a mark of the beast than any vaccine that could ever be made. If you won't renew your mind, you've already been marked. You won't catch the revelation of what God is trying to do, the technology that God, it's made by man. Well, you drove in a car made by man.
Yes. Wear shoes that a man made.
You wear shoes. You are living in a house that was man-made. God himself did not come down from Zion and nail 2x4s together to construct you a house. And so either we're going to trust technology. Now, with everything, with prayer and supplication, I take medicine every day. Some of you know that I have a pre-existing heart condition. I take medicine every day. I don't know what it's bound with. I don't know who it's packaged by. And one of my medications is so new that it's on the highest level of the formulary. I'm like, I need a discount code because this is too much to pay. But I take it in faith. And I pray over my medicine that it would have the intended effect and no side effect. I pray that and they'll tell you when you take medicine, this could affect your kidneys. It could do this to you. It could slow you down. It could slow you down. Did y'all see me hopping across this stage this morning? But I pray over everything that I ingest. I pray over everything that comes in my body. I pray over the TV that I watch and the media that I intake. Let me get the information, but the revelation in the information. And so when I went and got vaccinated, I prayed that it would have the intended effect and no side effect.
Yeah, that's good, Joseph. Thank you for joining us today. Come on, let's thank God for Pastor Joseph.
He's an epidemiologist.
Yes, he
It's
is
good
somebody.
Stuff. Somebody to know.
Listen, I've got just a couple more questions and we're going to wrap this up today. But
Yes.
will you talk to us just briefly about the booster shot? And what is that and why do we need that?
Thank you for that question. That's a really good question and a point of contention among many people who say, well, that's proof that the vaccine doesn't work. We have done boosters for decades. So when you take your children to get vaccinated and they get a hepatitis vaccine, they get one at 1 month, one at 2 months, one at 6 to 12 months. When they get a chickenpox vaccine, they get one at 1 month, one at 2 months.
We forgot that.
When they get a HPV vaccine, they get one. There are many, many vaccines that require more than one shot. Your flu shot is not a booster. It is a different vaccine because the flu changes. But these others are boosters. And what a booster does, exposes your body to it. They look at the data. The antibodies start to wane a little bit. They give you another booster to kick those antibodies up. And then they look and see, do we need another booster at some point? The same thing with pneumonia. You know, you get one at age 60. When I get to 60, they'll probably give me mine.
That's going to be a while.
Yeah. And then, you know, you may need another one depending on which one you got, that kind of stuff. So I think that's real important. And it's just not unusual.
Yeah.
It is not unusual. That is not some made up something. We've done that forever.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's the stuff that we forgot. In all of this disinformation stuff, it's caused us to question every little thing that things that we've always done. All of a sudden now we just like, you know, it takes our breath away.
I know. You know, some of that, Pastor Brady, is, I want to say this diplomatically.
Give it to us the Dr. Jill way.
And I talk to my children about this. Some of this is a lack of education. So my husband says to me, what I think is basic is not basic. But it's basic that you ought to know what messenger RNA is. At some point in your science, when you were talking about cells and you were talking about replication, you talked about, you know, your DNA and your messenger RNA and how that codes for proteins, that's in basic stuff. It really is. And so there are a lot of conversations that we have to have as we come out of this. But when you don't have basic knowledge, people can tell you anything. That's number one. Number two, all misinformation has an element of truth in it. So people who are giving you misinformation know enough to put a little bit of something in there that you're familiar with. So you'll look at that and say, oh yeah, I remember that. That must be true. because you don't understand it, you are easily manipulated by it.
Wow. Now that's
So
good.
it is. So I think that what it says to all of us is education is powerful.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that everybody has to go to college, but if you don't teach your children anything other than how to learn for themselves, just like when I was growing up, you didn't necessarily read the Bible. Whatever the pastor told you.
That's true.
Whatever his interpretation. Now it is common knowledge among the body of Christ. Get that Bible and read it for yourself.
Right.
Because not wearing pants is not in there.
Right.
And not having on lipstick, that is not in there. So it's the same thing. When you understand what messenger RNA is, then you're not frightened that it is going to change your DNA, because now you know DNA is inside of the nucleus. Messenger RNA can't even get in there. There's no mechanism for it. And messenger RNA does not transcribe for DNA, it transcribes for proteins.
God help us.
So when you know that basic information, then you're okay. Then the other thing, one more thing, and I know you said you had one more, two.
Go ahead.
Just because somebody says they're a doctor doesn't mean anything.
Now, that is true.
A doctor of what? And then where did you get your information from?
Right.
And what school was that? And was it online or was it in person? And then what kind of doctorate is it? And what kind of...
Yes.
Just like my daughter says, she always says, Mommy, I don't know if I'm going to be ride or die because I got questions. Are we really going to have to die? What are we fighting about? Is there some diplomatic resolution? Can we?
Yeah, I'm with you for better or worse. How much worse?
Yeah. How much worse is this going to get? Is this the bottom? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got questions. But you got to know what questions to ask. And just because I get online and say, I'm in the medical profession, well, are you cleaning floors? Are you receptionist? Are you the neurosurgeon?
Work for
Are you
gift shop?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you on the parking lot? You know,
Yeah. What?
I got questions.
I got questions.
Just me.
Yes, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Have y'all enjoyed Dr. Jill with us today? Woo! I tell you what. I love her. She's been, sit down, give me 2 minutes and then we're going to go. She has been faithful at our main campus for years, as far back as I can remember. Number one, I love that about people. I love faithfulness. I think it says a whole lot. But I started watching some of your clips, and I'm like, this is just practical stuff that we need right now because we have forgot what we know. The last message I preached before we went out into the pandemic and we shut the church down, the last message I preached was, it's what you know that will get you through what you face.
That's right.
And we have, through all of this, through all that we've heard from doctors and non-doctors and all of those things, prophets and non-prophets and everything else, we forgot what we know.
Right.
And that, and we find ourselves being destroyed for the lack of what we know, knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think that scripture said it so perfectly that God is like, listen, I need to know you're open to learning things. And I want to summarize this today. For people, there are just some people that will say, Pastor Brady, this is not for me. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to be your pastor, okay? I have vaccinated people that I pastor. I have unvaccinated people. And just like she has vaccinated patients and unvaccinated patients, I'm not going to love you any different. I'm not going to feed you any different. That's my job. I'm held accountable to God for that. But I'm also held accountable to make sure that I give you knowledge. And that's the reason that I've taken this Sunday morning to do this, because I love you from the bottom of my heart. And I know that some people are just going to say, I've never taken a vaccine. And what can you say to us that say, that's just not me, I'm not going to do it? What can that group of people do to protect themselves?
Please wear your mask. Please wear your mask. It's a respiratory virus, and you don't have to be worried about carbon dioxide getting too high inside your mask, because if oxygen can get in, CO2 can get out. Unless you have one of those, fake plastic. So please wear your mask and do all of the rest of the things. Take care of yourself. Sleep. Eat healthy foods. Take your vitamin C and vitamin D. I went back and looked at where in biochemistry does your vitamin D and vitamin C work in your immune response. It does. It works on the basic cells that are responsible for immunity. So you need your vitamin D and vitamin C. On the back end of immunity, your vitamin D and vitamin C keeps your body from overreacting.
Okay.
So you don't get sick from trying to fight off the virus. So those are the things that you can do, just basic things. Then the other one is, please reconsider. Just reconsider. Reconsider it again. Think about it. And I have said there was 2 patients that I found interesting. One, she's not going to take the vaccine. After we had our conversation, she said, Dr. Wagner, I love you so much. She said, if I was going to take the vaccine, I'd take it today because you really talked me into it. But I'm not taking it. I said, okay, I'm going to love you anyway. The other thing is, it's important to know that no decision is a final one. It's okay to change your mind. And you can change your mind and not tell your friend.
Yeah, come on. That's right.
If you have to make a decision for your family and for you that works for you, you don't have to tell that person at work who thinks everybody who takes the vaccine is going to grow another nose.
Right.
Just don't tell them. Don't tell them. It will diminish much of your stress and stop looking at that foolishness online.
Yeah. Yes. That's so true.
Those people, and you can't see their faces, and they are back in 1933. Dr. Fauci was selling, they just gotta stop listening to it and stop sharing it.
Absolutely, that's great. Dr. Jill, thank you so much. Will you guys help me thank her? Thank God for her gift.